Hey, this is Decoy from DecoyNoise, and today we're covering 3 Am I the Antagonist stories, and the featured post being, Am I the antagonist for taking my ex-girlfriend off my insurance policy to force her to give me full custody of my daughter? So we're switching things up quite a bit by doing 3 different stories of Am I the Antagonist in one video. We read the entire post, go over the top and controversial comments, then take it to Decoy Court where I give you my knee-jerk reaction and the definitive decision here as to whether OP is the antagonist or not. But make sure if you guys are liking this, you're subscribing down below, and if you want to skip the stories, I'll put the timestamp in the description down below. But let's go ahead and get to this first story right now. So OP wrote, me and my ex-girlfriend, Haley, have one daughter, a 15-year-old female, Ellie. I genuinely don't know if I was right to do what I did. Around 4 years ago, Haley had a very bad accident. That ended with her being wheelchair bound. This caused her to develop a lot of resentment towards me. She would get angry if I worked out or played any sports, so I stopped doing anything physically mostly. We tried counseling for a year and things didn't improve, and in the end, we broke up. Ever since Elle was born, I took out private insurance for me, Elle, and Haley. This helped out a lot because of her accident. Post-breakup, I still kept her in my insurance because she couldn't find any work, and I knew if I dropped her from the insurance, she wouldn't be able to afford any treatments. It's been 2 years since then. We have 50-50 custody, so I don't pay any child support. In the beginning, I kept a very keen eye to make sure that she didn't resent Elle as she resented me. She didn't, so I relaxed. She's still on that insurance because she's not able to find any job except welfare. I wanted both Haley and Ellie or Elle, I think it's Elle, to be well, so I kept the insurance. Half a year ago, when Elle came to stay, I noticed that she was very depressed and had gotten very fat compared to before. Nothing overweight, but Elle does ballet, and I've never seen her put on that much weight. Turns out Haley forbade Elle from doing ballet because Haley used to do ballet and Elle was just trying to rub her face in it. The same for any physical activities like sports or exercising. With that quarantine, it must have been like heck to live like that. Elle pretty much broke down and said that the past few months things have been escalating to the point that she is scared to walk inside her own house. She just stays in her room and comes out only to eat. Elle begged me to go to court so I can get full custody. Elle is at an age where her opinion matters in court, but it's almost impossible to get 100% custody in my state unless I can prove incompetency according to my lawyer. So I've dropped her from the insurance. Elle was supposed to stay with me for the next 6 months. Haley couldn't get a job, wiped out her savings as she had to pay for all her treatments. It was getting to the point where she couldn't even afford to get basic things for herself, let alone Elle. I also applied for sole custody. Given her financial situation and the lockdown situation and Elle's preference, the judge gave me full custody with supervised visitations for Haley. Haley didn't give good representation at court due to her financial situation. Also, there is a pandemic going on. I left an already vulnerable person without any medical insurance. I know what I did to protect my child, but I do so by taking advantage of the medical expenses of a disabled woman. Elle is happy. Haley obviously thinks I'm a manipulative jerk. Everyone seems to have mixed opinions here. But am I the antagonist? Also, dropping her from my insurance was completely legal. I'm not from the US. So I do have some knee-jerk reactions to this, but let's go ahead and get to those top and controversial comments to see what's really going on over here. They quoted the fact that Elle begged OP to go to court so he can get custody. So they said, at this point, there's no rules or obligations or important factors outside of this one right here. Your child begged to get out of their situation, and you made it happen. That's what a parent does. Hat is off to you, sir. I pity the mother, but she did this to herself, not the antagonist. And the reply to that was, you're a hero to your daughter, OP. Your wife never moved on with her life and has buried herself in her grief and shoved it into others, so she lost her significant other and now her daughter. Her accent is horrible, but she can't stop others from living life, especially her own daughter and significant other. Which is true, I do agree with that. The next reply being, not the antagonist. So not the antagonist. Your ex bullied your child into unhealthiness because she was bitter. She took her anger out of her situation on her own child, intentionally. You did a good thing for her, even keeping her on your insurance after the breakup at all. She spat on it by damaging the beautiful thing that you had between you, your daughter. You protected a child. Protecting of your kid outranks the protection of a manipulative narcissist. You did the right thing. You sound like a good person, so of course your conscience will weigh heavy, but rest assured, protecting your child was 1000% the right way to go. You trusted this woman to take care for and love your daughter. She broke your trust. You don't owe her a thing. And one more top comment was, you did a crappy thing to save your kid from a life of feeling guilty. She had a childhood. What? Okay. Okay, so yes, you did a good thing trying to get her out of a bad situation. So it's like, yeah, he's not going to feel good about it, but at the end of the day, as long as the kid is better off, it's it makes sense, but let's go ahead and see if the controversial section is going to go hard on OP, because I don't read any of this stuff ahead of time. I'm wondering if they're going to start blasting OP for saying those negative things about the ex-wife. But let's go ahead and read the top controversial comment, which is, I'd like to say you're the antagonist only because the way you went about essentially driving a disabled woman into poverty. However, even with it being a jerk move and ruthless, I absolutely support your decision and the way you went about it. As others have said, you had no obligation to keep Haley on your insurance, but you did because you seem to be a great person. You saved your daughter from a horrible situation and you take care of your own, which is the most important part. Is justified an antagonist an option? Again, jerk move, but more than deserved on Haley's end of things. Which, yeah, this is a fair assessment, but let's go ahead and read the next top reply, controversial reply, saying, no antagonist here, but just a generally tough situation. I hope Haley finds a way to move forward. And someone saying, why are you getting downvoted? This is a really positive and non-judgmental comment, but you're going against the narrative on Reddit, and that always gets downvoted. So someone also saying, everyone sucks here. I know you're doing this to protect your child, but you admit that you left a vulnerable person without any medical insurance in a pandemic. You are under no legal obligation to help your ex, and I think that some people would say that makes you not the antagonist, but I hope you can figure out some way of still helping her get on her feet. Also, there's some stuff in your story that doesn't add up to me. So we take the case, run it over to Decoy Court. The top commenters had their say, the controversial commenters had their say, and I'm going to go ahead and say that in this situation, do the ends justify the means? Yeah, they do, because it seems like it was going to send the kid into probably like a depressive state where she's not going to have a normal childhood because the mom is still trying to take out whatever happened to her in the world, all the miserable things that happened to her on the kid, on OP, which is, it's not okay. Hopefully, somewhere along the line, she's going to learn to be able to be, she's in a wheelchair, learn to cope with it. I can't imagine what that would be like, but just the idea of, it's not fair to say, hey, something terrible happened to me, I'm going to make my husband pay, now I'm going to make my kid pay. Like, no, it's messed up that OP had to go through all these hoops, but it's like, I would say this is more of a symptom of the legal system being a little bit weird about him not being able to get sole custody when she's like not letting the kid do ballet because she's jealous of it or something. Like, oh, the kid's rubbing in my face. Like, that's not okay. There should be another way where, OP could go to his lawyer and say, hey, how do I make it so they can force the mom to let the kid do what she wants to do with her time? Just because she's offended by it doesn't mean that she should live a worse life. So I'm going to go ahead and say that, OP's not the antagonist, maybe justified antagonist, but I would never want to put this guy in a situation where he would feel bad for what he did, because I just don't agree with that. So, make sure you guys are giving me your feedback about story 1, but let's go ahead and run over to story 2 right now, which is, am I the antagonist for having my girlfriend go home to change clothes after my grandpa made a comment about her? So the story says, okay. So I'll start by saying I'm a 19-year-old guy and she's 18. My grandpa was over at my house chilling with us and my girlfriend came over in the afternoon. Also, he never met her before this time. So she gets here and had some short shorts on and a tank. He looked at it and said, wow, they didn't make them like that when I was your age. I didn't really know what to say, and she was pretty shocked by the comment too. Then I said to her about going back home and changing into something different. She didn't like the idea, but I thought it would be best. She ended up staying home and told me that I was wrong and I was the antagonist for suggesting that. I feel like things got blown out of proportion. Am I the antagonist? And then the update was, as everyone predicted, I was dumped and I'm now single. She told me that she couldn't be with someone with my mentality. Okay, so I do have a knee-jerk reaction, but we're doing a different format style now, so we're going to go ahead and go to those top comments and see what they're saying. So they say, you're the antagonist. She was wearing standard summer clothes. Do you expect her just to run home and change every time someone makes a crass remark about her body and looks? I get that he was a family member, but it was your grandfather that was inappropriate, creepy, and in the wrong. Instead of even trying to stick up for your girlfriend, you essentially placed the blame on her shoulders while letting him get away with being an utter creep. You and your grandfather both displayed absolutely disgusting behavior. True. And the reply was, I guess misogyny runs in the family. Learn from this OP and defend your girlfriend, even if it makes you uncomfortable to speak up, because I can guarantee your girlfriend is 10 times more uncomfortable. Very, very true. Next reply, you're the antagonist. Your grandfather was being extremely creepy and you put the responsibility on your girlfriend to cover up rather than on him for being gross. You should have made him leave. True. The next reply was, you're the antagonist for the edit where you say she dumped you. Wait, why would that make him the antagonist? But okay, so I wholeheartedly agree with that, but we have to reserve the decoy court judgment for when we let both sides kind of take the stand right now in decoy court. So let's go ahead and see what the controversial commenters are saying, because oftentimes they're going to say some stuff that just, they're not popular opinions. But the top controversial reply was, The people saying you're the antagonist aren't wrong, but don't beat yourself up about it. Take this as a learning opportunity. You're young at 19, and standing up to older authority figures isn't easy, especially when caught off guard. This is the test people fail all the time. I certainly have on numerous occasions, but you've got to own that and figure out how to not do it again. Part of growing up to become a man means learning to stand your ground, even over relatively small things. Because when you miss those opportunities, people remember. Your girlfriend won't likely ever forget that you sided with your grandpa's skeezy comments instead of her. I doubt it caused irreparable harm, but she's not going to forget. Good luck, man. Own it, apologize, and maybe have a conversation with your grandpa in private about how not to talk to your girlfriend. If you have a good relationship, sometimes all you have to do is say something like, hey, I'd appreciate it if you didn't say things like that to my girlfriend. And this person got a controversial comment, but I wholeheartedly agree with everything they're saying there. They're actually sitting down OP like a father would with their son, saying, hey, part of growing up is learning from your mistakes. This was a mistake. This is how you change it. But they got downvoted heavily? I don't understand that. Let's go ahead and go to the next controversial reply, which is, you're the antagonist slightly. It's tough when you're so used to deferring to the adults and older relatives in your life, but you're definitely in this position now where you can shut that crap down when it happens. They'll scoff and call it disrespectful, and there will be a reflex from some other relatives trying to dig in and do the same, but you can and should shut that down. Why is a grown man looking at and talking about my 18-year-old girlfriend like that is pretty much the phrase that they won't be able to answer. Got negative votes, but I feel like it's true. The next very downvoted controversial reply was, okay, so maybe that grandpa's comment wasn't politically correct, but old man, he probably thought he was giving her a compliment. But never mind that, your girlfriend doesn't need to change her clothes. What she was wearing wasn't beyond the pale, so you need to ask yourself a hard question. Was this little bit of controlling behavior on your part a one-off or a trend? If it's a trend, then she shouldn't change her clothes. She should change her boyfriend. Good for her not returning. Now think about what you did. You're the antagonist. So, as always, we take it over to Decoy Court, where I give you my knee-jerk reaction now that I've seen both sides of the story, the top-end controversial comments, and I gotta say, minus this last comment over here, because this person's saying that, they're trying to give the old man a pass, which is exactly why the grandpa thought he could get away with saying these things. I can think about my grandfather, and I have a very, very good relationship with both grandparents, and it's just they would never say anything like this. They're respectable people. They don't think I'm an old person now I can get away with stuff. I do know I'm not gonna blast him right now, but another older person that does say inappropriate comments like that, and the only reason he does it is because most of the family won't stand up and stop them, and it's a sad thing where this person would perpetuate that type of behavior. But I do like what the other people were saying in the controversial section, where they said, hey, you made a mistake, stand up for her. You thought this was the best way to diffuse the situation by just say, okay, you know what, I don't know, I'm not going to yell at my own grandfather, so can you just accommodate him or whatever? Which was the wrong decision. He needs to stand up and be a man. He's 19 years old. He's going to make bad decisions like that because he hasn't fully matured. It's this weird thing where everybody wants to blast him super hard because he isn't a fully fledged adult yet, but he's a kid still. He's 19. So the idea is give him time to learn, give him time to become a man and stand up for the other adults in his life. Because the thing is, though, is if his girlfriend's this hot-looking thing that's wearing, short shorts and a tank top, other guys are going to be doing this later on, and he's going to need to be comfortable in his own skin to be able to stand up for her, because the girlfriend obviously left him, but even if she stayed, she still would never feel quite comfortable with being able to say, my boyfriend will stand up to me when there's creepers in the world, which is probably why she left. So the Decoy Court official judgment right here is everyone sucks here, except for the girlfriend for her leaving. But the grandpa sucks, OP sucks, but this isn't a definitive thing where once he's guilty in Decoy Court, we remove him from society and he can never have a girlfriend again. It's just saying, hey, look, learn from this. I like what the controversial people were saying. The top comments were correct as well, but hey, sometimes Reddit just doesn't want to give people second chances or the ability to learn in life or whatever. So let's go to that third and final story, which is, am I the antagonist for evicting a tenant because they got pregnant? So OP says, yes, I know the title sounds awful, but please do hear me out before making a judgment. I will accept whatever judgment I'm given. Okay, Decoy Court's about to take you to town. So I, a 30-year-old male, purchased a 3-bedroom condo in Toronto, Canada, 5 years ago when I was in my second year of medical residency. Soon after the purchase, I rented out one of the rooms to my roommate, a 49-year-old female, to offset the cost of the mortgage. I live in one room, she lives in the second, but the third is my study/office. She has been a great roommate from the beginning. We aren't necessarily friends, as we don't do things together for fun, but we do get along exceptionally well. The entire roommate/tenant relationship has gone swimmingly up until recently. A couple of weeks ago, my roommate broke the news that she is pregnant. The father was a fling of hers who does not want anything to do with the child. My roommate has decided she wants to keep the child anyways, and to raise it on her own. To me, that seems like a huge challenge, but I admire her for it. The issue is, while I don't necessarily dislike children, I have no desire to live with a baby. While the condo is a fair size, I will most definitely be woken up by the babies crying at night. My condo is also where I like to come home and relax, like a haven after a long workday. And the idea of coming home to a baby honestly seems absolutely chaotic, especially since this isn't my own child. One that my girlfriend and I decided to have / was mentally prepared for. As difficult as it was for me to do this, I told her essentially what I've written here. Okay, so he said that he doesn't want her, and that it would be best if she finds somewhere else to live. I'm not rushing her out or anything like that. I've given her 6 months notice, since any later than that will be too close to the birth. She honestly quite was taken aback by this, and thought I was being cruel. Her primary concern is her rent has gone up substantially in the city since she signed on with me. I haven't increased her rent since she moved in, so she's essentially paying 2015 rent. She works as a waitress and will likely need to find a lesser apartment to keep within the same budget. A couple other considerations are that she was out of work while restaurants were closed, but I did waive her rent for that period. All of the furniture is mine, aside for her bedroom. So she would need to figure out something on that front as well. Aside from all the child expenses, I understand her position, and I feel horrible about the situation, but I honestly can't do that. Am I the antagonist for this? And they also added, thank you to everyone who has commented. There have been two great suggestions on how I can make the situation better, which I have taken to heart. I haven't been able to give life much thought lately as work has been quite busy. Firstly, I have a friend in real estate and I'm going to see if they can help her find some affordable listings. Secondly, I don't plan on taking on another tenant after her and can afford to do this anyway. I have decided I'm going to waive her rent for the remainder of the tenancy. This will hopefully give her a bit of a boost to get her on her feet. Edit 2. I'm just checking in for the first time today. My god, I was not expecting anything near this many replies. Thank you to everyone who was okay, I don't care about the award acceptance speech. Okay, so this is just a lot of awards. Okay. The next update that isn't just them congratulating themselves was, so firstly, to anyone asking about the legality of the matter, I consulted an attorney to be 1000% sure, and this is perfectly legal. Since I live in the unit, the eviction laws are much more lenient. Secondly, to anyone said that I should allow her to live with me anyway, I challenge you to consider what the alternative would be. If this doesn't happen now, then when? Her baby will become a toddler, and a toddler eventually becomes school-age child. Will it really be any better to do this later on, or do you suggest that I let her raise a child until they're 18? Finally, the update. When I came home from work today, I told her that I first wanted to discuss the overall situation. Before I even began, she actually apologized to me for how she spoke to me and for expecting that I would be okay for her to raise a child here. I told her that her apology is totally unnecessary, as her reaction was completely understandable considering the uncertainty of her future. I then told her that what I told all of you, that I would waive the rent for the remainder of her stay to help her get her on her feet. She pushed back on this at first, but after I urged her to think of the child, she graciously accepted. Aside from this, I also told her about my friend who could help her out with finding some affordable listings in the area. I thought I might be overstepping there, but she was actually extremely thankful and would like to take me up out there. And then they said they're just taking about, okay, so one person gave her a good advice, and then the next one says, this is not an edit, but more of a request. Does anyone here know if it's possible to change your title to include something like updated? Okay, I hate when the posts are just award acceptance speeches like, thank you for all the replies and thank you for validating my concern. No, shut up. We're just here to give advice and everything there. So let's go ahead and go to the top comment right now saying, not the antagonist. It's your home. You're allowed to live with who you want to. She's an adult. She has 6 months to figure out a new living arrangement. Edit. Since some people were wondering why I said not the antagonist instead of another judgment, OP has been nothing but generous and compassionate over the situation. They have even edited their post to offer their roommate additional support and kindness. But what gets me is the roommate has called OP cruel and acting put out. OP doesn't deserve to be treated like that. It's not cruel to not want to live with a newborn, especially one that isn't yours. It's a reasonable boundary to have when you're sharing space. Where else would OP draw the line? Okay, so we're just going too much. This is a very long-winded post. So the next top reply was, not the antagonist. Neither one is the antagonist here. OP leased her room to a single person as originally intended, and now that tenant is going to bring in another human being who will cry incessantly and require a lot of attention. It's a tough situation, but OP did not sign up to be backup mama, which is probably what was going to happen. The next reply was, no antagonist here. It would always seem counterintuitive to call someone the antagonist for evicting someone when they're pregnant. However, you're not exactly throwing her out in the street to give birth in the gutter. You've been more than generous throughout the tenure, the sounds of it, and you've given her plenty of warning to move out. Her circumstances are changing, though her own choices that will impact negatively on you. She may have hoped you'd be okay with it, but she should have never have assumed. which is, I agree with all that other stuff where they're like, hey, they're giving OP credit, which is, I'm kind of surprised that Reddit is willing to do that, because usually they're just going to jump all over OP, but maybe the controversial section will be more mean to OP, even though he's been more than accommodating. But the top controversial post was not the antagonist. She's the antagonist for wanting to have a child that she clearly can't afford. And the reply to that was, what is she expecting to do when the child comes? It makes no sense. Plus, this is what child support is for. Very true. Next reply was, this community hates pregnant women, I swear, but the update, OP, you're the most reasonable, decent human being. Definitely not the antagonist. Since you're offering all those benefits to her, she should have no problem leaving the house. I would disagree with that one post and the one facet of Reddit doesn't seem to hate pregnant women. They hate people that are entitled, and oftentimes you hear these stories where they have a pregnant woman that feels entitled because they're pregnant, not necessarily just pregnant people. And the next reply where they say, be careful, what you're doing is legal. In the US, for example, familial status is a protected class, and is telling someone, I'm not renting to you anymore because you're pregnant, is potentially against the law. Make sure you're following the law, and I think you have enough, the notice you gave is probably enough to protect you. So, rushing this case over to Decoy Court, I actually kind of like the idea that both the controversial replies and the top replies were just good input, like, asking if it's legal, because I do hear some of that in other posts where they say, you can't kick him out during a certain time. If you're the father figure, the guy, like, the breadwinner of the house, he could actually be on the hook for child support later on down the line. There are some wacky laws like that, but just the idea where it makes sense that OP is going to say, hey, I don't want to be raising a kid that's not mine. And it makes sense for the tenant to come through and be like, take a bad reaction to this bad news. And it makes sense that they're both trying to be good friends. They don't hang out, but they're, have a good landlord-tenant relationship, so they seem like reasonable people. And the idea that she came back around and said, hey, I apologize, I'm in a rough situation, they probably were just leaning on the idea that, they have a good thing with their rent situation, they got a good thing with the OP being able to take care of all the furniture and probably other expenses in the house, electricity and gas and water. So it just makes sense that they would be upset, but they came around. It looks like everybody here kind of was an adult in this situation. Good communication. They get heated, but they don't hold it against each other. OP got yelled at by this person that he was perceivably his friend and good tenant, and instead of saying, oh, well, F that, now she's really going, he said, well, let me try to figure out ways that I can help her later on, help her raise a kid, but not also take responsibility for it. So good on everyone. I'm going to go ahead and say the final DecoyNoise decision in Decoy Court was no antagonist here. Everyone was an adult, and if only there was more places on the internet where we could have more people that are acting like adults when they should. This is one of those many situations you see on here where there was the potential for just yelling and screaming and people being angry at each other for just no reason at all, when in actuality it probably just took a little bit of cool down time. But I mean, as we go in this new kind of different DecoyNoise, Decoy Courts format, let me know down below how you like that. Make sure you subscribe with the notifications on so you can see my once a day episode that's going to be longer but cover more stories. Just let me know how you like the new vibe, the new thumbnail, the new style, the new background, the new everything. I'm just trying to figure things out as I try to grow. But as always, if you made it this far in the video, I want to say I appreciate you hanging out with me as much as you have, making sure you're liking it, maybe sharing it with someone that may like this kind of ranty commentary podcast I'm doing on online drama. But if nothing else, go ahead and put this on autoplay and watch that next episode of DecoyNoise coming up next.